forgot to record. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that we are launching a book on International Women's Day. It's a very big day for ladies worldwide and celebrating all of our accomplishments. And today I am especially thrilled to have author Leigh M Clark with us. We've worked on 3 books together now, which is a huge deal. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to talk about her newest book that is coming out today.
Great. Hi, thanks for having me. And Corey's terrific. For anyone who's working with her or not working with her, we have put out 3 books in 9 months, which has to be some kind of, there's got to be a trophy involved for that.
Okay.
But I'm Leigh M Clark. I'm the founder of an organization called Kindly, which does acts of kindness both nationally and internationally. I'm also the founder of the Kindness Community, which is a Facebook and LinkedIn group, which has in excess of 40,000 global members, all dedicated to raising the vibe and bringing more positivity into news feeds through articles, acts of kindness, and just general goodwill towards others. In addition to that, I have a day job. I work in software for a big tech firm, but everything I do, from speaking, be it like TEDx stages or writing these books, is all about making a positive impact on those I'm fortunate enough to find in my path, and hoping to spread that in multiplicity to others.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say, if you don't know about Kindly and the work that they do, can we post the website for that afterwards?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because you have to go in there and start learning about some of the things that Leigh has been able to accomplish, some of the people that she's helped, the cool projects that she does. And when I first met Leigh, I was like, you do what? Oh my God, that is so amazing. And it's something that, you know, everybody needs more of in their lives, is kindness. So definitely check that out. And I wanted to talk about the book that we're launching today. So if you want to show everybody, it is such a gorgeous cover on this one.
Yes.
The Dream is
Shout
in Your
out to
Hands.
Jade Pilgrim, who did the cover. She also does cards for Hallmark. That's how my writing partner actually discovered her. His mother gave him a card on his birthday with one of her illustrations, and he looked her up and they became friends. And now she's illustrated 2 covers for us. And the book is The Dream is in Your Hands, literally. As she can do it. So it's really exciting on International Women's Day to be sharing stories of women who have followed their dreams and the advice that they would dispense to their younger selves, which I speak a little bit about this in the book, but I really feel like advice is a form of nostalgia, where we take the lessons we've learned through hardships and through ups and downs and repurpose that, hoping someone else will be able to smooth over the struggles and just get to the nuggets of wisdom. So it's really great to hear so many different women who've had so much rich life experience, who've done so many things to be successful in life, and all of the struggles that we, collectively face. There's a lot of similarities, regardless of walks of life or upbringing, that women face, and that humans in general face. So it's a great a guide to how to avoid some of those pitfalls, if we can take sage wisdom from others.
Yeah, absolutely. I've read it several times over since I did the editing on it. And I was really touched by how much in there. I mean, it's a very diverse group of women, very diverse ethnic backgrounds, hometowns, ages, and just seeing the wealth of wisdom that they had and going, oh, I've been through that. I've seen that. I have a friend who went through that, and really understanding, like, we really are more alike than we are different. I think that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from the book. And then seeing that advice and how we talk to ourselves and how we would talk to our younger selves was amazing too.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, to your point, like the vast differences of these women who all had very, very individual dreams. One of the women in the book had met Beyonce one year and said, "I'm going to dance for you one day," and now has been on the run tour with Beyonce. She's currently on tour with Megan Thee Stallion. Just realizing those dreams and potentials, but still, struggling with self-worth and self-doubt, and people in the book write about aligning themselves or their energy with people who maybe are draining them, or people pleasing, or a lot of the things we all face. And it's really cool because I think and I've faced this myself, where people will look at some of the accomplishments I've had and think I have something figured out, and I don't.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing either. I'm just trying to do my personal best. And I think, especially in this era of social media where everybody looks so filtered and glossy, and they have great vacations, and they're wearing an evening gown in the water in Bora Bora, and you just think they have it all like worked out.
Yeah.
So to pull back that curtain and see like the dichotomy of vulnerability and strength that is behind these women, it kind of it's disarming in a way that allows you to feel like, hey, like I'm doing my best too, and no one, no matter how good they look on paper or how like high profile they might be on LinkedIn, has it figured out or doesn't go across the same type of human struggles that we all face.
Right. Yeah. I think it's reassuring to see things like that, to see people who are so accomplished, and especially, people in the public eye that we think, oh, wow, they've got it all together. They know all their stuff, like you were saying. And then to say, okay, well, she's had some of the same struggles I have. That gives me a little bit of hope. So I know I can still achieve, even though I might be questioning myself, or, maybe I had a really bad day, or, whatever it is. So I really appreciate that about this book.
Yeah, I had someone comment on the post about the book this morning saying, like, you're so impressive. And I'm like, God, I hope I could see myself through the way you see me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't wake up feeling impressive, but thank you for that. But also, I think it's important that we take the veil down and that we really show people, because vulnerability takes guts. Brene Brown is like the vulnerability queen of the universe. And I think she gave a lot of people that personal freedom to expose the fact that a lot of us look like ducks where we're gliding on the surface and underneath it's like this.
Mhm.
And people don't see the amount of this that's happening for so many people. They assume that they have some kind of magic code, and their lives are easier, and they wake up with like a good blowout and whatever. So I think it's so important that we continue to have those conversations, just like we're having now, where people can feel like, what, I can relate. I have imposter syndrome, or I'm a people pleaser, or,
Yeah.
what, I don't always feel that great, or I don't think that I set out to do the things I hoped I would do. Whatever it is that holds you back, I think when we celebrate those stories as well as the accomplishments, it
Mhm.
gives a much more well-rounded view of what it's like to be a woman, and what it's like to be a human.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I wanted to know how you guys came up with the idea for this book. Like, you obviously didn't know what every single woman was going to write, because there's almost 40 women in here. So what gave you that idea, and how did you find the different people you guys selected for it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have a writing partner. His name is Kenneth Monroe. He goes by Pen Ken. He's working with some of the big publishers like Houghton Mifflin and Penguin and so on. And he and I, this is our second collective together. He is a talent agent in LA, so he's very connected. He has an affinity for meeting really interesting and diverse women, and he's built a great network. So a lot of the women were pulled from that network. I also have an expansive network of women, and I hope in some of the future books, after we take a hiatus, I'll be able to showcase some of them as well. But I think, one of the questions I often ask people is, what is the best advice you've ever received, or what is the best advice you'd ever dispense? And
Mhm.
I think that that's such an important question to ask people, because in doing so, you already know what you know coming into the conversation. But
Right.
when you ask that question of someone, you really get the best lessons that they learned in their life. And
Mhm.
by listening to that and really taking it in, and not just observing it, but inspecting it and applying it to your own life, it really can save a lot of heartache, and also can allow you to feel much more connected to people's personal mission. So when he talked to me about the idea of them writing a letter to their younger selves, rather than sort of soapboxing and professing, all this
Yeah.
wisdom they've amassed, I thought that was great, because there's a level of authenticity and vulnerability that comes with being introspective.
Mhm.
And when you have the time to sit with your younger self, like you may be wherever you're at with yourself right now, but looking back, you're like, oh, why did I do that? Or why did I spend so much energy on that person? Or why did I allow myself to be held against beauty standards that are unreasonable, you know, whatever that is. I think when we're reflective, especially wanting the best for ourselves in the long run, there's a really like a self-love aspect to speaking to your younger self or your inner child,
Yeah.
as they'll say in therapy. But I think that that was such a great way to take this project, and instead of it being successful people dispensing advice on success, you know, people just visiting the vulnerable parts of their journey and addressing their younger self of like what they would have done to speed up the process. And we were also, I mean, I will say I was concerned that a lot of the advice would be similar, right?
Right.
Because there are key themes that we all face, but whether it's being good enough, whether it's achieving what we set out to achieve, whether it's living up to our own ideal beauty standards or whatever that is, there are a lot of things that are common. But what was interesting is one single question with very little direction, and that's been a common theme among all three books,
Mhm.
produced such varying results. And although there were key themes, everyone's entry and everyone's letter was very, very different, very unique to their story. And there wasn't a lot of repetition in the book, which I thought was fantastic. I also love these collectives because I feel like we've become the 7 to 15 second like nation, where getting things quickly is so important, and really having time is one of the most valuable resources we have, and there's only a limited supply. So I love these types of books because you can pick it up at any point and read a chapter or two, and not have this huge commitment to like reading something end to end.
Mhm.
And you know, it allows you to kind of have a touchstone of something feel good or something uplifting, without, you know, that commitment of sitting down and having time to read a book, because I think a lot of us struggle with that. And you know, for a lot of people, that is time that they take out of their day to really escape. But it's important for people who are in the midst of the chaos to be able to escape quickly and then get back into the day. So I really love that the project came together with really simple, succinct messages. Each woman's entry is about 250 words or so. So maybe a page or so per woman. We have 39 women total. So it's a really, it was aimed at young women, but I think the advice is from anyone who's just beginning their journey into being a young adult woman, all the way into women who are in their older, wiser years that can look back and be reflective. I think it really spans the generations.
That was something that I noticed too. I mean, I'm 42, so I'm not in that like, I mean, of course, we're all still learning all the time, but I'm not in that like, you know, super young, you know, just became an adult phase, but I'm also, I don't consider myself to be older and wiser either. So it was neat for me as kind of in the middle to look at it and say, okay, you know, this is stuff that I want my daughters to read
Yeah.
when they get old enough, you know, when they're in high school. I want them to see this stuff. I want them to understand that, you know, these are some of the journeys, and it's okay. It's all okay. But then for me, like reflecting back on my own journey, it was interesting too. So that was really something I appreciated about this book, was the diverse touchstones in our lives that we would be, you know, focusing on, and how it can work for a diverse audience too, age-wise.
Yeah, and two things on that. I didn't realize we're exactly the same age. Also,
Oh,
who knew?
yeah,
So yay for 79 or 80, whichever part of the year you were born
79.
in. 79, June 26th. But also on the cover, if you notice, there's two women, and this is the my business partner's mother and also his daughter. And he tells a story, and I thought this was so powerful. He tells a story in his dedication about the day his mother dropped him off at the airport. And he was on a plane to Chicago to go and do the audio recording of the book for this. And he was reflecting on that time that he wanted to go to LA and make something of himself. And his mom took him to the airport, and she was like bawling the whole way. She was going to send her child off into the world. And then there came a time when he became a father, and now his daughter just turned 6, and he decided to give up the Hollywood like life limelight and all the clubs and the, you know, all the stuff. He was called like the new Fresh Prince of LA back in the day. And he shut all that down to become a dad and to refocus. And I thought, isn't it interesting that here's a story of a woman who loved you enough to let you go, and a daughter you loved enough to stay. And I
Mhm.
just thought that that's so cool. And I think this to me shows the span of the impact this book has,
Yeah.
where it does span the generations, because we are constantly learning and we are constantly reevaluating our life and our purpose. And sometimes we're reflective and
Mhm.
sometimes we're headstrong. But I think for younger women, it's just great. It's like a manual of like pitfalls to avoid and lessons to glean from people who've been through it.
Yeah.
And the age ranges of the women who contributed is vast. I mean, we have people from their 40s to their 60s throughout the book, but I don't think there's anyone who can't take something away from this,
Mm.
but also feel a sense of community, which is so important.
Yeah, I agree on that. And just taking that a little step further, something else that I wish I had seen, when I was like 18, ready to conquer the world, was older women giving their younger selves so much grace.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't see women in this book who were beating themselves up like, why the hell did I marry that guy? Or why did I move here? Or, I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
like that. It was, it's okay. And this made you the woman you are today. And that was a really big message that I think is
Yeah,
important.
and in talking to people, because when you're in the midst of these projects, it comes up, I'm working on this, and
Mhm.
in talking to a lot of people, there's many people who said I wouldn't have changed a thing,
Yeah.
even though I took these lessons from it. It took all of those, and one of the authors from the first book calls them micro moments, but
Mhm.
all of those millions of tiny moments that become rich life experience, that glean these lessons from them. But it doesn't mean you don't have to go through it, and I think that's really important for young women. I
Yeah.
know I was a headstrong young woman, and like I needed advice from no one, and I was on my way. And it's not to say that you can't still have those experiences, nor can anyone prevent you from having those experiences. You're going to fall in love no matter how smart you are. You're
Yeah.
going to figure out whether or not that was right or wrong later. These things will still happen. But I think to your point, it's really that grace to not beat yourself up about your life choices,
Mhm.
but rather embrace those moments as part of your story and your journey, of what makes you you. And I have a painting in my house that says, trust the timing of your life. And I really believe that. Like, I really believe that no matter what the struggle or the strides look like, that everything is happening and unfolding as it ought to. And you will learn what you need to learn in the time that you need to learn it. And you can't force yourself to like advance too quickly. But, if you are open to listening to other people, you can really gather a lot of collective intelligence that it can help you make better decisions in your own life. It's just being open, I think, to those experiences, both those experiences from others and those experiences within yourself.
Yeah, I think so. And such a good message from that book. I
For
did want
sure.
to talk a little bit about your chapter too. So can you just give us a sneak peek? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff in here. So you guys will have to get the book to be able to see all of it. But I do want to share a little
Yeah.
bit about your chapter.
So my chapter is called Beautiful, which is something I would have never called myself in all of my years. I was born with a birthmark on my face from here to here to here. And I was, mercilessly teased by kids. And I realized as I'm older, if it wasn't that, it would have been something else, right? Everybody has something. It's like you're too tall, you're too thin, you're too fat, whatever it is. But that was my thing.
Mhm.
And so from a very young age, I felt like I just wanted to blend in. My mom taught me to use makeup at the age of 10. And it was like, just, I wanted to be normal. And as I grew and went through those experiences, I read that Dr. Seuss quote that says, why blend in when you were born to stand out? And realized that maybe I was marked with purpose, right? Maybe I was meant to not be like everyone else. And maybe instead of that making me odd or different, it made me unique and interesting, right? And so I speak a lot about that in the chapter, because if I could speak to my younger self, I think, one, beauty standards have changed immensely, especially in the last like 5 to 10 years. And I think it's fantastic. Sorry, work is calling. Just something happening here. But yeah, I think it's really important, because when you're younger, you're just dying to fit in.
Right.
And you see these girls in like junior high and high school, and they're all dressed the same, and they're all looking to blend in, but yet they want to be seen, and they want to be valued, and they want to be heard. Oh no. Hi. Can you
Hi.
give me a minute? Sorry.
Hello.
All right, buddy. I'm on a live stream.
Can you open my toy?
Yeah, go in the kitchen and get it yourself and bring it in your room, okay? Thank
Can you
you.
open it?
Yeah, go ahead. Go get it. So I think it's really important as a mom, but I think it's important that we re-examine what we think it means to be beautiful.
Mhm.
And, when you're younger, you want to fit into these ideals, right? Now that we have Instagram and filters and all these things that
Mhm.
people feel like they have to achieve this like amazing effortless makeup look or whatever it is, that your uniqueness and the things that make you different make you stand out. And that's something that you should really strive to stand out rather than to be like everyone else. And I think that's really what the sentiment of my chapter is about, finding that inner beauty and being comfortable in my skin, and really knowing that beauty comes from being the kind of person you're proud to be.
We need a knife.
Yes.
We need a
My
knife.
daughter just walked in the room at the same time.
Yeah, so we're busy working moms. So buddy,
Mom, we need a knife to cut the towel.
Okay. So let's continue. I will give him his things so he can go and say hi to everyone.
Hello.
So my son just got diagnosed with COVID this morning, so he's home. Go ahead, go start building it in the living room and I'll help you. Thank you. No, sir, in the living room, please.
I hope he feels
Wanna have
better
it?
soon.
Then go take it in the living room. Now, please. Thank you. Love you.
That's actually kind of a good opportunity to change gears here too,
Yeah.
because I did want to talk about the book that we released earlier this year, because I know we didn't get to do a live stream for it. The Dream is in Your Hands.
Yes.
So can you
And
tell
that's
me?
my son on the
Yes.
cover.
I
So
would
yeah,
say.
so perfect timing, good segue. Yeah, so the dream is in your hands, very similar in the sense that it is people who worked hard to achieve the dream they set out for themselves. But where it differs is it's both men and women. I'm talking about coming from adverse conditions or, different socioeconomic backgrounds,
Mhm.
and finding their way and like pursuing their dreams and then giving back to their communities. I think there's some similarities in the lessons that are dispensed there, but what I really loved is the way that people took maybe their inequalities or things that made them different, not having the same amount of money to buy the toys and have the tech and be
Mhm.
able to do, and instead of saying, I don't have this, therefore I cannot be a creative because I can't afford an iPad or I can't,
Yeah.
they were like, you know what, I had to be creative because I didn't have those things.
Mhm.
Or, someone talking about, and I think it was the same woman who's in both books, who's a backup dancer for Beyonce and Megan Thee Stallion, talking about, being in the room with all these stick thin ballerinas and all these dancers and feeling like she wanted to, she ended up with an eating disorder. She was making herself physically ill to fit in, not realizing again at that point to what I just stated earlier, she stood out in the room. She didn't
Yeah.
look like everybody else. And that didn't make her less than. If anything, it made her more interesting because she broke the mold. She wasn't the same as everybody else. So I love that book in the sense that, and it goes a little bit deeper. That book has several questions about what it was like growing up in their neighborhoods and who were the mentors or the pillars of the community that set an example for them. Who were those leaders? And then what have they done to give back? Because I think it's so important. I mean, there's so many people who are finding their own personal success, but it was reading a quote the other day that said, your life is based on what you create, and it's not what you make, it's what you give away. And I think that that's so beautiful, is like, once you've reached that point where you have enough in your cup to give, and I'm not talking financially, because I think people really think, I don't have enough money, I can't give. I was that person, whatever, 12 years ago before I started Kindly. I actually launched Kindly because I couldn't afford to write the checks. I could only do paintings and sell them to do acts of kindness.
Mhm.
But I think when we think of giving, we think time or money, and not necessarily like sharing our gifts with the world. And all of these books have been not for profit, but in the sense that the books themselves have driven scholarship funds or have gone towards random acts of kindness. Because I think that the point of creating, and creation is one of the only ways you can be fully present. And I think that that's so unique and interesting. It's like if you're doing a painting or you're baking cupcakes or whatever it is that you're creating, if you're in creation mode, it's, we all struggle with being present.
Mhm.
When you're in creation, you're entirely present because you have to be, really. You
Yeah.
have to be in order to have that energy to inspire others. But, a lot of times, even with the artwork I do now, I'll give it away because I think it's it's more about how that will impact someone, or how something that came from your heart can shine the light on others. So I think the book is really great about, focusing on how a lot of these people not only reached their own personal levels of success, but how they then took that success and gave back to the communities that raised them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important message from that book. And that was an interesting one too, because there was a smaller group of authors. And so you got to follow a little bit more of their journey and kind of understand where they were coming from and where they were going. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I was talking to our audiobook producer last night, Jess Branis, and she and I were discussing that about the two books, because she's done, basically the final editing on our audio tracks that are done by Studio Kai in Chicago. She's the one who gets them onto Audible. And we were talking about how different it was, how like in She Can Do It, it was really succinct messages. You didn't really get too far into the story behind it, but you kind of glean from it what were like the most important lessons.
Yeah.
Whereas in Dream, it's a lot more detailed into like, what were those personal struggles, what were those battles, what did people really face in order to reach their personal greatness, and what did they take from them. And like I said, I love that with all three books, like with Living Kindly, which was a collection of authors talking about the power of kindness and what it meant to them. That one had a purpose of acts of kindness. And the second book, The Dream Is in Your Hands, promoted scholarships for inner city youth. And it was talking about people who came from inner city kind of situations and rose above it. And then now with She Can Do It, it's about women and empowering women to talk about their personal journeys. And that's going back to help, high school girls with a scholarship. So I love that people have used their creative talents and shared not only invaluable advice, but that at the heart of each of these projects is creating a legacy of more and more experiences for the next generation.
Oh, again.
Carter, go in the other room and fix that. I thought you were sick. If you're sick, you got to go in your room, buddy.
I don't know if I can build this.
Yeah, I warned you. And he's been in his room like really great all morning. And I knew once I live streamed, it was like bound to happen.
It's like they have that like sense where they have to come and be on camera. Mind you that.
Absolutely. But
well, I know you have important duties over there. So I wanted to kind of wrap up here a little bit. And I don't remember what I was going to say about about all three books. So Living Kindly was the first one we launched last year. That was actually the first one from Aurora Corialis. And then The Dream Is in Your Hands and The Dream Is in Your Hands, She Can Do It. All three of them not only impact people by, sharing this wisdom and helping people see, hey, we're all connected, we all have these struggles, and all the big messages that are shared within the books. So there's that aspect of the impact, but then there's also the scholarships. So it's this beautiful web, like one of the authors talked about in Living Kindly, this beautiful web of interconnectedness and kindness. So was there anything else that you wanted to share about the books? Because like I said, I don't want to go too far over.
I know. And then we have coughing in the background. You probably due for a nap and some cough syrup. We're literally on day 1 of COVID here. So no, I think it's available on Amazon today. Please support the project. Even if you can't buy the book, think about sharing it with your networks. These women are the voice of so many. I want to just point out, it may be the 39 women who contributed, but it's also the legacy of the women who came before them, the women who come after them, and the web of women who've supported them along the way, as well as men, and I think, think about it for your daughters or your sisters or your wives or your mothers or your friends, as a feel-good inspirational project. And I look forward to doing more projects again after a brief hiatus. I think you and I are both pretty spent on collective for a minute, but I do look forward to future projects of continuing to take a group of individuals and share their collective stories. When I first wrote my first book, which never hit the shelves, I never even published it, I realized that it's more important for me to shine the light on others. And I'm so glad we get the opportunity to do that. And if you're not working with Corey and you have a book in your mind and you just don't know how to get there, I'll plug Corey. She's been great. We were absolutely the first book from Aurora Corialis Publishing, and we've had several successful books yet since. We are on 2 bestsellers, hopefully 3 today. But in my heart, the impact that these projects have far surpass whether or not they rank. Because if one person is affected by the message, or if it gives one person more hope than they had yesterday, I think we're in a day and age where hope is the most important thing that we can put on the market. And doing so to again raise the vibration and then give back to the community at large and the world at large. It's just a really honorable thing to be a part of, and I'm so grateful we got to do that with you and with your publishing companies. So thank you for all your hard work.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and all the authors we've worked with, and getting to share their message and impact people positively and make change and all of that wonderful stuff. So yes, thank you too for working with me on that.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for being patient with my son, who's now going to watch TV behind us.
It's funny. 20 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, there are children in the room. What are we doing? And today it's like, it's so common, and we're all just like, they're doing their thing. We're doing our thing.
It shows this is what real life looks like, right? It's not shiny, it's not perfect. You know, there's a child jumping on my bed behind us, and you know, we just do our best and we keep showing up, but it doesn't have to be flawless. It doesn't have to be perfect. And furthermore, nobody can relate to flawless or perfect. And at best, people are jealous of you, and who wants that? Like,
Right.
it's not, you know, that's not real life. I think, you know, and thinking about the pandemic, a lot of good things came out of it. And I think it allowed us to show up more authentically, and it allowed companies like the one I work with to foster a work-life balance. And it's just, there's a lot of good that came from bad. So, you know, we have to keep on trying to, again, glean the best advice we can get from the lessons that were set before us.
Yeah. And just continue to do better and better as we know better.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
say goodbye to everybody, Carter.
thank you so much for
Say
joining
goodbye.
me. Thank you, Carter.
Yeah, he's my co-host. Come say goodbye. If you want to be on, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Corey. Can we just have an out?
I had my light over top of the live stream button, so I couldn't